All right, it is 1 o'clock and we are ready to start. Okay, you can see that there's actually a big group size today. So I just wanted to kick off the new year and give you the opportunity to hear about all the upcoming activities, programs, and events happening across the association on government relations, policy, talent, health, along with all the other exciting activities happening in order for you to be able to engage more for 2020. So the agenda for today is to briefly hear from our president and CEO, Angela Mondeau, talk about some exciting changes on our priorities, brand, and overall direction. Then we will move to cover our federal activities. So we will hear from Andre Leduc, our VP of Government Relations and Policy. We will then move to cover our Ontario government activities. We will hear from Nevin French, VP of Policy. We will then talk about cyber security and our initiatives from Randy Peirce, Director of Cybersecurity Standards. We will hear from Brett Hotas. He's our placement officer for some career-ready co-op funding. And we will hear from Denise Short, VP of Industry Development, and also Dwayne Cormier, Director of Industry Development. And they will just give us an update on industry engagement and our ADAPT program. We will also hear about our health activities and cover a little bit about membership. So currently, you are all muted. However, feel free to submit your questions at any time during the webinar via the portal, and we will read it out on your behalf. Or you can raise your hand, your virtual hand that is, and we will unmute you and give you an opportunity to ask the question yourself. That's going to be during the latter part of the presentation. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Angela Mondeau, our CEO and President. Angela?
Hey, Tech Nation. Thanks for that, Mariana. And wow, we have 100 people on this call today. We actually had to close off because that's the maximum amount of members. So welcome, everyone. We're thrilled to have you here. We have a really diverse group on the phone today. We have our big tech companies, some great SMEs, scale up, some educational institutions. Thanks for joining us, and hopefully you're all going to get some really great input on what's happening over the next 12 months, some really incredible programs that teams put together that will impact and involve all of you. Some exciting news. You just heard me introduce or welcome all of you as Tech Nation. For those of you that weren't able to make our Ingenious Awards in November, check out our fun video. It's up online right now on our website, which is in transition. But we did do a rebrand or introduced a rebrand, which will be unfolding over the next few months behind the name Tech Nation. And Marianne, I think you're going to flip the slide here, behind our great new tagline, which is Uniting Technology, Government, and Community for Canada's Future. Just a little bit on why we've taken this on. When I've been here for 9 months now, and I've spent the last 9 months really doing a listening tour with over 70 of our members, one-on-one meetings, meeting many of you as well at some of our great programs. And we really determined that it's a good time after 60 years out there to reposition our organization. Many of you gave us feedback, including external stakeholders, that we have a bit of a legacy feel. We've been around for a long time. Our language and look and feel felt a bit back office or legacy from a tech perspective. And as all of you know, it is so darn far from the truth and doesn't really represent all of you as our 300 real leading members in everything from scale up innovation and cyber and AI and supply chain to some of those phenomenal Canadian tech companies and multi national tech companies as well. So here we are with a new brand that really we feel better articulates our value and what we and you are going to bring to Canada through working groups, events, programs, thought leadership, you name it. We have a new focus this year as well, which really supports our ongoing mandate, which is driving prosperity across Canada, driving technology adoption, and the development of the digital workforce. First and foremost, and all of you will hear about this today, but also in some of the information and membership information that will be going out around an overarching responsible tech focus that we have. It's in the works right now as we speak. We're developing a responsible tech council, and that'll involve key stakeholders in government, educational institutions, and many of you as our members. Looking forward to your participation. We will be launching a national fall symposium to support that. And responsible tech is going to focus on a really relevant areas for Canada right now going forward. We have a cyber focus, and right now we've created a cyber talent alliance around that. We have a cyber best practices working group. We'll be developing a greater focus on AI, not just from a digital workforce development perspective, but also from an AI adoption perspective. And there'll also be a focus on 5G and connected communities. Just a quick note on talent. Many of you may not know, but in the fall, we were awarded from ESDC a $71 million 3-year program to drive specifically programming in talent connecting post-grad talent and current university studies and college studies into industry. So creating co-op and intern opportunities across all of you, our members. So please, you'll hear more about that today from Brett. Please look into that because it's a phenomenal program that TECHNATION has been selected to bring to the table. We're also really looking at promoting growth this year and connecting our scale-ups and global tech leaders. We've developed an enabling scale-up program that is in the works right now as well. We're working with global supply chains and, of course, providing advocacy, networking, professional development between industry and government. So stay tuned as we share more of this today. Again, we're thrilled to have you, and as I mentioned at the beginning, we're going to be rolling out more information on TECHNATION over the next few months. So watch out for our new email addresses. We'll be launching TECHNATION Canada coming soon and a new website in May this year. So that's enough. I don't want to steal the thunder from the entire team, but thanks again, all of you, for joining us. And I'm going to hand back to you, Mariana, to our first member presentation.
Next is Andre Leduc. He's the VP of Government Relations and Policy. So, Andre, over to you. If you could tell us a little bit about your federal government mandated areas of focus and some of your activities around procurement and AI, that would be great.
Thanks, Mariana. Go ahead to the next slide. We'll give you updates both in terms of what's going on with the Public Sector Business Committee and federal procurement, and I'll provide updates as well in terms of our policy and advocacy work. So we have a new government, minority government. Ministers are now in place. Shadow cabinet is in place. Details around that was sent out to the Policy and Advocacy Committee. However, the committees like the Finance Committee, the Industry Committee, the Ethics Committee have not yet been named or formed. We expect that to occur in a couple weeks' time. We have started the pre-budget process with our Policy and Advocacy Committee. A draft will be sent around to the Policy and Advocacy Committee as well as the PSBC in the next 4 or 5 days for review. We kind of jumped the gun a little bit because the Finance Committee is not yet named, but we have heard from government that there will be a pre-budget process for budget 2020, and we want to have our ducks in a row because I think they're going to only open up the opportunities for a couple of weeks. So we want to finalize our pre-budget submission and have that ready to submit. The pre-budget submission is structured in 3 distinct areas: enabling a digital government, growing our digital economy, and, as Angela was pointing out, responsible tech. The mandate letters for all of the ministers have been published. We have shared the key mandate letters with both members of the PSBC and PAC, and we have sent letters from Angela to the about 17 ministers, including Minister of Digital Government, Minister of the Treasury, Minister of Finance, Minister of now ICE, which is formerly ISED, which was formerly Industry, as well as some of the key opposition critics. Some of the key areas of focus for us in terms of our advocacy work is going to be around data and the digital charter to come out of IC, now formerly Industry Canada. We also understand that there is a memorandum in the Cabinet forthcoming on updating PIPEDA and privacy rules. We have engaged a number of ministers, but starting with the Minister of Finance, around some of the taxation issues with reference to our industry, including the DST and sales taxes. We are highlighting the importance of keeping the avenue open in terms of immigration so that we can continue to grow the talent stream in our industry. And we've highlighted issues around the need for a more fulsome plan in terms of delivering 5G to Canadians, as well as broadband for rural and remote communities and some of the telecommunications issues. Next slide. In terms of procurement, last year we ran a procurement task force engaging with PSPC, Treasury Board, and SSC focused on these areas. Our next Public Sector Business Committee meeting on January 28th will host PSPC. The procurement ombudsman will come in and provide updates to what he's doing in his shop, but we'll have updates on the vendor performance framework and on socioeconomic procurement. And then in the February PSBC, we will have updates on contract simplification initiatives and what was the other one? Oh, and the new electronic procurement system and the platform. So one of the main things, I was at the Supplier Advisory Committee. This is the Minister of PSPC's Supplier Advisory Committee yesterday. Members of the PSBC will receive an email either later today or early tomorrow morning with the decks from that presentation, but they will highlight an update in all of these 5 areas. It was procurement modernization is the first issue raised in Minister of PSPC, Anita Anand's mandate letter, and we're following up with Ariane and her team to engage and support the government in this process. Something else that's worth noting is we've had indications from the Conservative Party of Canada that they are open to introducing commercial first legislation as a private member's bill. That will likely occur at some point in the May-June timeframe. So stay tuned through the Public Sector Business Committee for updates on these files. Next slide. TECHNATION has established an AI working group. We have now 23 members, and we have begun the process of drafting a report with the goal of developing and furthering understanding of what artificial intelligence is, what machine learning is, what cognitive computing is, robotic process automation, and delivering a report that is written in plain language so that the average bureaucrat, member of parliament, or senior executive in a traditional industry might have an understanding of what these technologies are. We want to dispel some of the myths around what AI is and isn't doing. We want to create an appreciation of the benefits that AI can drive and some of the efficiency gains that are available. We want to provide a bit of a guidebook both for private sector and for public sector separately on how to implement and develop their AI practices within their organizations. And then lastly, we caution the government to make sure that there is a balanced approach to regulation in this space and that they leverage to the extent feasible standards and codes of practice. So the AI Working Group report is expected to be delivered just ahead of our Hill Day in late February. Next slide. We are also currently working on an SME scale-up paper. We've got an initial draft together. We're working through editing this document over the coming week or two. Then members of both the Policy and Advocacy Committee and the Public Sector Business Committee will have an opportunity to review the document and send us in thoughts and suggested changes to the document. The focus of the paper is developed in 6 areas. So asking the public sector to become better customers and to become digital governments, a section on how scale-ups need to access venture capital and private equity funding, how to engage and improve the regulatory environment for SMEs and scale-ups, why SMEs need a skilled workforce that is accessible to them in order to be able to scale and grow, creating collaborative environments. These are environments like our incubators, but turning those into accelerators so that our organizations can collaborate on both public and private sector projects. And then finally, creating a single window for SMEs to access public programs. So if you are an SME and you've tried to access a federal or provincial program, you'll often note that these are dispersed in many places across federal and provincial portfolios, and we're encouraging the government to create a single window for SMEs so that they have a good understanding of which programs apply for them. Next slide, please.
So Andre, one thing just to add before we flip to the slide is that the working group, that's basically out of a working group of SMEs and scale-ups who developed that list of.
That's right. Last September, we had a half-day meeting with a number of SMEs, even some of our larger players who partner with SMEs, to focus on what the specific problems were for our SMEs and scale-up companies, and that helped us develop that kind of go-forward work plan. Lastly is a project for the training working group on upskilling the bureaucracy. So we've recently formed this working group in an attempt to get the government to focus on upskilling and reskilling the bureaucracy, with a special focus on the computer scientists, the engineers within the federal portfolio. Last week we had a partner meeting with the Professional Institute of the Public Service, PIPS, and we are going to be drafting a letter that both TECHNATION and PIPS will sign on to, making recommendations for government around the need for reskilling and upskilling the public service. The concept that we're doing with PIPS may in time extend to other unions, but the idea here is that to date, the federal government and some provincial governments have been somewhat resistant to the adoption of advanced technologies. So what we want to do is to be able to create a bit of a demand at the working level by empowering those people with training on artificial intelligence, cloud computing and cloud technologies, data mining, etc. And the training will be delivered by our member organizations through platforms. So the union is really interested in getting direct access for union members to our industry's training platforms and courses and curriculum. That's it for me. Thanks. Up next is Nevin French.
Hi there, this is Nevin French, also in Ottawa. I cover the provincial government and as well as City of Toronto. And to start with, I just want to say the work that Andre just covered, and here in Ottawa, part of one of our mission will be to be able to duplicate as much of that work as possible. That there'll be some elements of that which will be very federal government specific, but a lot of these other work involving, say, government's use of AI, we'll be able to share that with other levels of government across the country, provinces, and municipalities, as well as these technology and disruptive technology issues are impacting them as well. So for my first slide on the Ford government, this will quickly cover Government of Ontario. TECHNATION, we're quite involved, engaged at both the political and officials level on technology files. There was a major cabinet shuffle that happened summer 2019, early in the mandate of a provincial government, it was kind of a rocky early start of the Ford government. Elections tend to come early, so it'll be interesting to see how the second half of the Ford government, how they start working towards the next election, which will probably be quite heavily contested. You saw over the last summer, the Ford government take quite an extended summer break as the federal election was taking place. They will be moving quickly this fall, and so far, of course, the political cycle has been dominated with discussions with teachers' unions. So right now, with the Ford government, there's a heavy focus on improved government services to citizens, and this will be done using technology. I have a bullet here of Service Ontario's top 10 transactions with the goal to shift approximately 10 million from in-person to digital. So this is a heavy focus for them, and this will require technology. And this is something that they're interested in acquiring as smoothly as possible. Major focus of ours in terms of engagement with Government of Ontario is their supply chain centralization. We will be establishing working groups with regular meetings with the Ministry of Government, Consumer Services, and Supply Chain Ontario dealing with this. This is not an easy process. It'll take quite a while, certainly longer than the Ford government mandate. They're looking at centralizing $29 billion a year of broader public sector services under kind of major windows. There's a major IT component with this. So far, we've been fairly pleased with what we've heard from the senior bureaucratic and political levels talking about shifting towards outcomes, but this will not come easy. We're really looking for input from our membership in terms of what has worked and what hasn't been working in terms of procurement with Government of Ontario. And as I mentioned, we'll be having regular meetings with Government and Consumer Services on this, both at the officials level, but also at the political level to ensure that they hear the messaging as well. Our major committee that engages with our membership is the Ontario Public Sector Business Committee. Next meeting will be Friday, January 31st, the morning at TELUS there in Toronto. We will be announcing who the speaker will be shortly. It'll be from Government of Ontario, and then I'll be able to provide more in-depth detail of our engagement with the government. Next slide, please. This is, so a major element of our engagement with Ontario is budget submissions. The first budget that they released last year was heavily focused on delivering from their platform. We'll be, similar as what Andre mentioned, putting our budget submission together and looking for input from our membership. The themes will align with the themes out of the Plan to Build Ontario Together that was released by Minister Phillips in the Fall Economic Statement. So those are the 6 ones, and there's quite a bit of areas that the tech sector can feed into this. Next slide, please. I wanted to just say a few things on connected communities. We as a business association, one of the major elements we're looking at is to ensure that the multiple levels of Canadian governments are working together. This is going to be really crucial to align technology and align policy to make sure that we have federal government, provincial governments, municipalities on the same page. We want to have a country in which a citizen can go from Toronto to Montreal to small town Nova Scotia and still get or still know what to expect in terms of smart cities and connected communities. We'll be creating, I think Angela touched on this, in terms of leadership council to identify some of the areas that industry can work with government on introducing new technology. Something that I've really heard over the last year on this file is the focus needs to be on the citizens. This is something we're hearing in terms of not focusing on the technology, but solving concerns of the citizens will help understanding this new technology being unveiled. So we'll be working on this heavily in 2020 with a major event in the fall. And, you know, Canada is a very urban population. We've got great potential to be world leaders in smart cities, but also we do have a history of having issues aligning our policies. So it'll be a challenge for us to come up with, for the governments to work together on this. Finally, last point I'd like to mention, a big event that we have coming up on Tuesday, April 7th. We partner with IDC for an event called Directions. Focus this year is on changing customers and competition. And this will be a full-day event in Toronto at Mars with a heavy focus on how digital transformation and innovation are impacting a variety of sections and looking at things like future enterprises, AI, cloud, Internet of Things, and dealing with customer experiences and industry and how this is evolving and how industry needs to be ready for not just today, but for the future. So information on this, once again, April 7th at Mars, and it's on our website. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Up next is Randy Pearce. He's the Director of Cybersecurity Standards. Over to you, Randy. Tell us about your cyber initiatives.
Hi, thank you. Well, there's lots of going on in the cybersecurity space, but there's two major topics that we wanted to talk about today. The first is the Cyber Skills Initiative. Some of you may be aware, ITAC, now TECHNATION, has been funded to provide under a federal government project on a cybersecurity skills initiative to basically build the cybersecurity workforce and support cybersecurity education improvement in Canada. So we're working on that diligently. One of the main deliverables is, or a couple of the main deliverables, there's a framework that we're modeling after the U.S. National Initiative Cybersecurity Education framework, and also a national occupational standard for cybersecurity. And those are the two things I'm going to talk about on the next slide. So the first thing is the cybersecurity skills framework has been completed and it's in final review for government approval. As you can see on this slide, there's four major components: oversee governing, design to develop, operate, maintain, and protect and defend. We're also looking at including the three other nice categories that are analyze, collect, and operate and investigate, but not de-emphasizing them a bit because they contain highly specialized cybersecurity occupations and roles, but they will be included in the framework. So this framework has been completed, and we've had a number of industry representatives provide some input for this. But the next upcoming requirement is to actually take a look at the National Occupational Standard, build that standard out, and validate it with the community. So what we're doing now is you see a number of roles under each of those categories. We're developing each of those roles, and we're going to be actually reaching out to the member community to find some, to validate these roles. And that more information will be coming out on that later on. Anybody that's interested in this can contact me. So next slide, please. The next big initiative we have going on right now is the Cybersecurity Best Practices Initiative. You see the outcomes there. We're hoping to educate leaders, get applied best practices in context, and increase resilience of the two major vulnerable communities, which include municipalities and small medium enterprises. Right now, we have a strong cadre of leaders, of industry leaders, as effectively a steering committee advisory group. And we're looking at creating these best practices through a co-facilitated event in the March timeframe. And ultimately, this will be followed by national webinars and then publication and sustainment of those best practices over time. So again, anybody that's interested in contributing to this initiative can certainly contact me. We're looking for more opportunities and more contributors there. So that's about all I have for today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, the Cyber Best Practices Initiative sounds like a great opportunity for members to get engaged. Next is Brett Hodes. He's the placement officer for our Career Ready program. Brett, tell us more about the co-op funding and what's been happening in that side of the hood.
Thanks, Mariana, and thanks, Randy. Today, I'll first be touching base on a very important key talent program, the Career Ready program, and then I'll just move on to touch base on a few related projects that our team is working on delivering. So, of course, the Career Ready program is a wage subsidy program that we administer in partnership with the Government of Canada, where employers can earn back up to $7,000 per student hired for a work term. So if you've maybe heard about the program before but weren't quite sure how to connect with it, we are putting a webinar-style meeting on the books for mid-February, and some information will go out very shortly about that to our members. And you probably have a pretty good idea of the program's purpose, but the idea of this particular webinar is to really invite you along to discover its purpose for you and how members can benefit directly. To give an example of that, what we'll be doing is offering coaching on implementation to increase the value of your participation in the program. And another thing is we always make sure that we have funding secured for members, so you'll never go without. And the timing of this session will align really nicely with the early summer recruitment period. So a lot of universities are starting to sort of put out their students for summer, and we'll be launching the requests for funding for the summer 2020 placement period on February 17th. So this is all lining up really nice. There's a link on the slide as well if you want to learn a little bit more on your own, or please do feel free to connect with me directly, or you can always reach us at careerready@itac.ca. And so just sort of, my bit of call to action here is, it's really important to get the right person from your organization attending this particular webinar. So if you have a hiring manager or somebody in HR that you think might be the best fit, please, send me their contact information or to Mariana, or even better yet, an introduction would be really great. And we'll make sure that they get the invitation directly, and any sort of related events moving forward would go directly to them as well. And just to give a bit of a context to the performance in the program and how well we've been doing, we had over 500 placements in the summertime, which was our record, 300 in fall. So that's, about $5 million and $2 million respectively issued to Canadian employers. So a lot of support, to the Canadian business community, and many of our members who have participated in this, and many of them are actually on this call today. So they know firsthand what an impact this program has made and been making. And we've got a few friends from the post-secondary institutions that we work closely with as well. So hello to them today. And funding is still rolling and available, for winter placements. So if you have any students that are working with you currently and you're not taking advantage of this program, let's see about submitting and expediting a request for you as soon as possible. And then I just have a few more things to talk about in my next slide, if you follow along. And just very high level here, we have a few very exciting tools and platforms that are being delivered by our team, some interactive resources for employers and students to access to develop their workplace skills in a work-integrated learning setting. We'll be capturing too some labor market information to deliver the talent pool and employers with sort of a comprehensive and visual understanding of what's going on in the Canadian job tech sector and ecosystem and marketplace. Also exciting, a big national marketing campaign to help us promote the Career Ready program and work integrated learning as a way to sort of transform, the national sort of landscape and how employers approach scaling and taking advantage of student talent. So what that really means is a big message to encourage scale-ups to harness the student power to grow, while at the same time developing the next generation of talent in Canada. So this is going to be really great visibility for TECHNATION and for all of the tools that we're introducing. And if members, if you're interested, if the slide's leaving you a little bit wanting more, you will receive a summary of the RFPs when we do publish them. So stay tuned for that. I look forward to connecting with all of you, hopefully, on the upcoming webinar that I mentioned. And I think now we're passing it over to our dynamic duo in industry development.
Yes, so up next, thank you so much, Brett. Some really exciting stuff happening. Next is Denise Short, VP of Industry Development, and Dwayne Cormier, he's the Director of Industry Development. They will talk about upcoming events to engage industry and also about the ADAPT program. So go ahead.
Great, thanks, Mariana. If you can skip to the first slide. As Mariana mentioned, I'm just going to give you a brief update on some of the upcoming events. And just to let you know that we're working with members to design events that are increasingly impactful for you. So we recognize that our large and small members are very much interested in joining TECHNATION in order to network with each other, do business with each other, and also to do business specifically with government, all levels of government. So what we've been working on and will continue to work on this year is to design events that give you that opportunity to connect with each other, get access to those government leaders so that you can learn more about their priorities and how you can support them with your own tech solutions and tech innovations. And so really what we're doing is kind of looking at our formats for each of our events and trying to refresh them and increase engagement opportunities so that you're able to connect with each other more successfully, and again, also get access to those government leaders. So as many of you know, we have we're able to get back to our longtime legacy of hosting regular CCIO breakfast events. So Angela and I have had an opportunity over the past 6 months to meet with Daphne and her team regularly and to really be partnering with her and her team to provide value and to provide that value exchange and opportunity for industry and government to connect with each other and collaborate. So we held our CCIO event on December 5th, and we had 250 attendees there, just over 250 attendees, 40 government leaders. So as you may know, Daphne presents herself, but she also brings 40 of her the CIOs for the clusters, as well as directors. So it's a really great opportunity for one-stop shopping, as it were, to learn about government priorities and in turn think about how you can connect with those leaders to promote your solutions and innovations to help them gain efficiencies and drive modernization and tech adoption within the government. So those events are obviously a key opportunity for members to attend and engage. The next event, we're just working on finalizing the actual event date, so that will be coming to you soon, so stay tuned. If you're interested in pursuing sponsorship opportunities, feel free to connect with me directly, but also a better way to stay engaged around the planning for those events is to attend our Ontario Public Sector Business Committee meetings, which as Nevin mentioned, the next one will be January 31st at TELUS, and you can join that meeting in person or call in for details. And that's a great way for you to kind of have a heads up on Ontario focused events. Also, we are hosting a City of Toronto CTO breakfast with the new City of Toronto CTO, Lawrence Etta. That will be March 23rd, and Josie Scioli will be there as well. And we will also be inviting key City of Toronto CIOs, TTC, Toronto Police Services, community housing, library as well. So another great opportunity for you to hear about their specific priorities, so you have a better understanding of how your solutions might fit with their needs. So please join us for that, and you'll see the invite going out very soon, or check back on our website. Also, as you may know, we host regular Women in Leadership events in partnership with Women in Communications and Technology, a national Women in Tech organization. Our next event will be February 25th, and Nancy McLean, who's VP of Bell Media, will be our key speaker. So that's another great opportunity if you're women in tech and you want to network and support each other and help each other advance throughout your career. Those events are always a great opportunity to connect. Next slide. Thanks, Mariana. I also just wanted to highlight the recent female-led tech trade mission that TECHNATION hosted back in November. And as you may know, TECHNATION hosts regular trade missions, and we have been doing that for about 10 years to much success. And recently, we decided that we wanted to devote some of those trade missions specifically to supporting female founders, and also to help support those female-led companies to grow and scale globally, but also attend conferences around the world where they can better connect with each other and again help each other advance in their careers. And this mission was quite successful. We worked very closely with the ambassador to Portugal, Lisa Rice Madden, and the work that we did on the ground was quite instrumental in helping to promote and advance the Web Summit opportunity to women in tech here in Canada. And this year we were able to boast that we improved female attendance at Web Summit, which, as you may know, is there are 70,000 attendees to that conference, and this year was the highest ever female attendance rate at 46.3%. So we really feel like TECHNATION is really having an impact in helping to support not only female founders, but also women in tech generally. And so Angela and I were quite excited about the impact that we can have, and we're hoping to receive funding from Global Affairs for this season with 3 more trade missions. So if you're an SME scale-up interested in learning more about those activities, please do reach out to us to learn more about those. And we hope to host another female-led tech trade mission to Web Summit again this year in November. So if you're a female founder and you'd like to receive up to 75% of your costs are covered by this opportunity, so please do let me know if that's of interest to you. So I think that's it for me, Mariana. I am going to turn things over to my partner in crime on the industry development front, Dwayne Cormier, who's based in Ottawa, and he will be giving you a bit of an overview on a particularly exciting project that we have in the works. So over to you, Dwayne.
Thank you, Denise. Yeah, there's a lot going on. So what I'm going to do is focus on the project that I'm working on. So if you can go to the next slide, Mariana. So as some of you may be aware, but with over 100 on here, I'm going to give you a quick update or briefing on the Future Skills Center Digital Competencies for Underrepresented Groups research project that we received funding from, one of the first Future Skills Center funded projects, so we're quite proud of that. Now this project is designed to take non-STEM recent graduates or just about to graduate and put them into entry-level digital occupations in your company. So we're giving you access to an alternative pathway of talent. What that program then does is we conduct needs assessments with employers, 20 minutes online fillable form, and you provide us with the hard skills and the professional skills that you're looking for entry-level hires. We then take that information and we custom curate curriculum and do an 8-week intensive boot camp to train them on the skills that you've identified that you need. And then once that 8-week boot camp is done, ideally an internship within your company would be greatly appreciated. So that's the ask. What's in it for you is, again, access to an untapped, alternative path talent, but also you get the research findings as well. So if you participate, we submit those findings back to you so you can see what the overarching themes are. We've recently closed the Toronto cohort, the Toronto needs assessments, which were completed. So thank you to all of you who did participate. The next one will be taking place in Calgary, and then probably in the fall in Halifax. If anybody on the line has a counterpart, colleague, person in HR in either Calgary or Halifax, please introduce me to them via email, and I can explain the project a bit more in depth to them to be able to get these needs assessments completed. The assessments are imperative to the success of this project. It is heavily research focused. At the end of the year, we will then review the results and determine if the 8-week intensive boot camp or the blended offering or the completely online are all providing the same success rates. If we can determine that the online is just as successful as the 8-week boot camp, we can then offer this on a national scale instead of just the Toronto scale, the Toronto region. So that would be it for the Future Skills Center. And again, if you have any questions, anybody that you can introduce me to, that'd be greatly appreciated. And I'll be signing off now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Next up is Elaine Husing. She's the Executive Director for our Health Division. She is ill and lost her voice, but is on the call listening. And I will spare her voice and just cover her slides. So just to give everyone some background, the Health Division is closely tied into procurement processes for the healthcare systems across the country and creates a wealth of opportunities to get your name out there and connect with health and hospital CIOs. In terms of our health committees and events, the goal is to help members synthesize procurement across provinces' health organizations, and they're also working to have the same sort of standards and certifications. Our ITAC Health members engage in multi-level stakeholders across Canada and dialogue on issues of concern to the vendor community. So the committees engage governments and provide input on the strategies, and all that can be found on our website under health. In terms of upcoming events, there is the HIMSS Europe Goa mission. That's on May the 26th to the 28th. It's obviously a great conference to be part of. It's one of the largest when it comes to health conferences in Europe. The goal of this mission is to assist Canadian health tech companies learn more about exporting opportunities that exist in Europe and also gain access to leaders, influencers, and decision makers. Again, this is obviously a great conference, and you can contact Elaine for more information. Upcoming events, she has the HIMSS conference on March 10th. That's in Orlando, Florida. This is a signature social event for Canadians attending the HIMSS conference. There's also sponsorship opportunities. We have in the works right now an e-health breakfast. So just look for those announcements on key dates and topics. In terms of advocacy committee meetings, those are the dates that are coming up. They all run from 4 to 5. More information can be sent to you directly, so please don't hesitate to contact us. And one last thing I wanted to say, our health division, the Health and Advocacy Committee, published a white paper titled Accelerating the Adoption of Digital Health Technologies in Canada. that supports the committee's mandate by explaining that there is an opportunity and need for more strategic approach for the acceleration and adoption of emerging digital health technologies in Canada. The paper highlights the importance and benefits of these emerging technologies to the progression of our digital health system. It also forms the foundation for TECHNATION's messaging to government and the broader health sector across Canada. So that is it for Elaine. And of course, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to contact me or her directly. Up next, I'm just conscious of time here, so I'll try to move through my slides quickly. My name is Mariana Coutin-Morin. I'm the Director of Membership. I just wanted to quickly just touch and just let you know, when I talk to members, the feedback I get from them is that there is a sense of community and the activities are very synergistic to their business, allowing them to make connections and develop relationships with like-minded leaders in the tech sector. So here at TECHNATION, we want to provide a platform for our members to share ideas and strengthen their relationship with key decision makers in industry. So in terms of highlighting some of the impact we had in 2019 and 2020 already, we've had some white papers. We had a cloud paper, a paper on data privacy. There's a few others in the works. We met with the Bank of Canada's Governor, Stephen Poloz, and his team to discuss digital transformation and the need for tech talent and cyber securing the environment. You heard about our talent division. We placed over 300 students across Canada this year as part of the Government of Canada's Student Work Placement Program. We supported some women-led missions to Dublin. Our annual golf tournament was at the gorgeous Bayview Golf Club and Country Club. It was a great event. We hosted a Oprah-style panel discussion. It was a Champions for Change. It was a male leadership supporting women in tech panel. We had our very own Kevin Piesker from Microsoft, Xerxes from IBM, and Glenn Leverty from Ricoh. We held an executive briefing breakfast event featuring Paul Glover on December 2nd. The presentation included updates on SSC's 3.0 and the department's go forward strategy. We had a great fireside chat with the Chief and Data Officer, Hilary Hartley. ITAC works with all levels of government to deliver direct access to our members. And of course, the Ingenious Awards. It's an annual awards gala. It's held in Toronto. It was in November. It was a great event, great night where top Canada's tech sector gathered to celebrate the best and the brightest in technology and in innovation. It is one of our marquee events. It was at the spectacular Crystal Ballroom in the Omni King Edward Hotel. Just a fantastic night. There were 5 winners that received the Ingenious Awards, and then there was 2 that received the Canadian CIO of the Year Award. So the winners were PCL Construction, Humber River Hospital, Meta Optima Technology. We had eHealth Center of Excellence, and also Highmark Interactive. And then the 2 CIO winners were from Mark Bryant from PCL and Joanne